Thank you so much for tuning in to Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood.
Welcome back to Mom Jeans, the podcast. We are your hosts. I am Lisa, girl mom of 2 girls.
I'm Danielle. I'm a boy mom, stay-at-home mom, and a military spouse.
Nailed it!
I did it that time.
Yeah.
That was quick. Snap, snap.
Yeah. So today we are going to get into a topic. I coincidentally just listened to a podcast with Emily Oster on it, and she was really fascinating. And I know we referenced her in a previous episode. I want to say Leah was the one who read her books, or Michelle, one of the two of them, read her books while they were pregnant, and really, really likes her stuff. But Danielle found a really good, I think it was a reel on Instagram, and it was basically, she was addressing the fact that kids don't have independence anymore. They don't play independently. They are watched like hawks, like everybody's on top of them. And she alludes to the fact, and I didn't listen to the whole podcast. I do have it on my list to do, but that this could be a cause of the anxiety that is happening in kids these days, not being able to have independence and not being able to, go down the street at the end of the day and go hang out with your friends without a parent watching or an adult being supervising. And I thought that was really interesting because I had just listened to another podcast recently about the same thing. And they were saying the same thing, that essentially this all started because of like the missing kids on the back of the milk cartons and the fear that was placed into parents that their kids would go missing if they got to play by themselves and unsupervised. And they found later on, much later on, that the data shows that the majority of kids that go missing are not random attacks. They're not random somebody getting kidnapped out of the blue. It's attacks on, family members or somebody, holding them for ransom that knows them through work or something of that sort. So that actually made me sleep better that night. After I heard that stat, I was like, that makes me feel good. Cause like, I literally walk around all the time being like, oh my gosh, are my kids going to get kidnapped today? Like, and which is weird, right? It's like a weird.
I don't think so.
No, it's crazy.
I do that all the time. Yeah. I'm afraid he'll get like taken out of the buggy or shopping cart in the English version. But yeah, like right when I'm like turned around to get the milk or something, like I'm terrified of that. Yeah.
It's so interesting too, because I think that this is like a more American thing than anywhere else. Because I was listening to a podcast the other day about a guy was talking about, what did he say? More people die in the US. Oh no, more people lose limbs to diabetes in the US than they do getting a limb shot off. And I was like, well, no, duh. And he's like, and a lot of people get shot in America. He is English and he lives in Australia. And I was like, do they? I don't think that many people are getting shot in America, but for them, it's a ton because they don't have anybody getting shot, because they just don't have guns. So it's like, I was like, okay, all right, that's an interesting thing. So I do think that this is more of like a thing in the US, unfortunately, but I think that also has to do with the way media has changed and the way, like if you've ever seen the movie Newsies, I recommend. That was like my favorite movie ever. It was Young Days of Christian Bale. I think the movie came out in the early 90s. Something like that.
I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, but they were like, headlines sell papers, right? Like you're gonna skip the headline, if the front page says, cat gets caught in tree, but then the second page has man with 2 heads bites cat, then you're gonna say that one, right? It's gonna sell papers, it's gonna sell stuff. So, how much can we trust on that? But long-winded.
Don't get me started. Don't get me started on that. I have an opinion about that too. Yeah. I just feel like they show.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
All the bad stuff.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
I never watch the news. It makes me depressed.
No, I can't watch the news. I can't do it. So did you play as a kid without your parents?
I did, but I feel like we lived in a relatively like safe neighborhood. Very rural. Here's my countryness. Rural. How do you say it?
You got it.
Rural. Yeah, it just sounds that's a real country word when I say it. So it's just obviously there's bad people around, but not very often. And so I felt like we could go to the neighbor's house. We didn't have cell phones then, up until like I was 14 maybe. So I was able to play and go. They would just yell outside to look for me. But that's about it. Yeah. Yep. I'd say, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I'd stay at my granny's like during the day in the summertime, and she'd go to walk over to the Y, and before the pool opened, we'd stay at her house. We'd walk down to the park. We'd play by the river, and then we would walk up to the Y and then like go swimming and stuff. And so we had a lot of freedom there too. And like my cousins and my friend would always come with us. And so, definitely different times, I feel like.
I totally agree. I mean, we grew up with a neighborhood that had kids in it, and we would go play like either at each other's houses, or we would walk to a park, or we would go do things. Like my brother was always gone. Like nobody ever knew where my brother was. And even, like young, it was just never an issue. And then my grandparents had a lake house in the summers, and my brother would be gone like all weekend. And you may see him, like you would maybe see him for like 5 minutes one day, and you're like, all right, check, he's there. He's somewhere. Like, it's okay. It was just like so not a thing. And like to be afraid of those things. And I do think it started to change a little bit as we got older, because I remember my mom, like, and to be fair, she didn't want me to go to ride my bike to my middle school, because my middle school was probably like 3 miles away from my house, but it was on pretty busy streets. Like you had to cross busy streets like a couple of times. Mm-hmm. And so but my mom was also a very big worrier, but you started to see more and more kids like, oh, my parents don't let me do that kind of stuff. They don't let me get away, like go do my own thing. I'm not really super independent. And I think that's really interesting to see now. And they were talking about like conflict resolution. Like kids don't know how to do conflict resolution anymore because their parents never let them get to that point. It's always like, oh, the parent jumps in to solve them pulling each other's hair or, hitting each other, stuff like that. Whereas, back in the day, you got to fight. Like I got to fight with my brother, and I remember being like beat up, and he was beat up, right? And I just think there's a lot of downfall to it. But as a parent, it's really scary. Yeah. It's like, so Hannah is almost 3 years old. She'll be 3 in January. And like Michelle and Ryan live next door to us, and our backyards are open. We have the fence open to each other. And like today I was like, Han, go run us over to Ryan and Michelle's house. And it was like awesome. I mean, I know it was the backyard, so it's different. Like nobody's going to be back there except the dogs might run her over, but she's used to that. Yeah. But it's like we're more concerned, obviously, that she's being a pest to them than it is like, oh, she might go missing. And, even if we did the front yard, like I said that to Brandon, because we have some friends at the end of the block. And I'm like, I would be so interested to just send her to the end of the block at this stage and see how long it took her to get there, what she stopped to look at, and what would happen. She's like a super social kid. So I know she, like, if she saw anybody, she'd stop and talk to them. So it's like, I don't want to make her afraid of strangers and people, but I'm like, oh, what does that person want? I get more nervous, but I also want to not show that,
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. I would be the same. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like I'm scared of people, not scared, but I am definitely shy. And I just feel like my mom is always like, don't talk to strangers. And like, you might get kidnapped. So I feel that. And I've watched too many crime shows and read too many books. And like,
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know. You look at the news and people are getting kidnapped or killed. They're like, and it just happens so quick. Like they come, like, they'll like snatch you. Like if you've seen the videos, maybe Facebook algorithm sometimes. At some point in my life was like, oh, look at all these kids that get stolen. And I'm like, oh, or almost kidnapped. And you hear these stories of like moms in Target and they're like going to park or going back to their car and there's this van next to them. They're being followed and almost got grabbed. And I'm like, see, like I'm always watching my back for sure. But then like my mom talks about, you know, her childhood. She's like, my parents would be like, don't come home until like the street lights are on. And, you know, we would be outside all day and we might come home for lunch or even pack our lunch and like not even come back. And it was just different times. And it's like that here on base because I've, like I say, it's a false sense of security. I mean, because just because we're on a military base doesn't mean that every military member is like nice or good. Like, cause that's not, we're all people like, but you kind of think that. But for the most part, kids ride their bikes. There's so many kids in the street. There's a playground behind my house. And, like, rarely any parents up there unless they're really little. And so they're just running around the whole base. And so that's really nice to see because you don't really see that, I feel like, in the civilian world, like off of a base where we have walls and you can't get in without like a pass. So,
not your credit card?
No. Yeah, I did that today. I literally, Weston cried all the way from the store. And he normally doesn't cry, so he must have been uncomfortable. And then until I rolled the window down and the gate guard, you're supposed to give him your ID. And I handed him my credit card. He's like, this isn't going to get you in. You're right. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm just like mom brain right now because my son was just crying. He's like, oh. And then he was excited because he has a little one on the way. He's like, I'll understand soon. So like, yeah, you will.
That's funny.
But, yeah, credit cards will not get you on base. No.
I think no, and that kind of goes back to like our episode with Kylie too, is like, you know, like I was talking to somebody and they were like, oh yeah, like we were on a hike in Switzerland or something, and there was like a group of 5-year-olds hiking without anybody near them, and it was like a non-issue. Like it was so they were trusted. And it's interesting because the Montessori system that we have both of our girls in is very much teaching independence and very much let them do it. And it's very like, I love it. It's so, so cool to watch Hannah come home and be like, oh, I'm going to clean the table. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, this is great. Yeah. I want to wash the dishes. Okay, go ahead, go do it. No, I want to help. You know, it's like, it's very cool to see, but it also does give her like a sense of like, I can do anything. And it's great. And it's also scary as a parent that grew up in a world as we got older where it was like, we can trust less and less and less and less.
Right.
So it's hard. It's like hard as a parent to handle that, but it's also like, I also want her to be a well-adjusted child, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you brought up a good point. So I'm wondering when the switch happened, because if you think about like back in the 1700s, 1800s, like people had large families, like they had chores and jobs like cleaning the table and cooking dinner and working on the farm and helping in the shop or whatever their family did at a very young age. Like they were learning to work and be like a unit and like a family, like helper, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. I wonder where did that switch? And then now it's like almost pushing a rope to get like your kid to help you clean. Or I mean, I feel like I was that. I mean, I did help, but I just remember like mom would ask me to clean the table and I'm like, oh my gosh,
I know.
You want me to clean the table? You want me to help you cook dinner? Like, no. And that makes me sad. Like, why didn't I help? Like, or why did I not want to?
Well, especially knowing like I'm gonna want help, you know. Right. Like it's funny because Brandon does the dishes because I hate the dishes so much. I grew up with parents who everything went in the dishwasher. Literally everything. Like your pots and pans went in the dishwasher. Everything. So when Brandon's like, don't put that in the dishwasher, I'm like, why not? I hate doing the dishes. I'm going to do it, you know, but it's like, I remember my parents rarely made us do stuff, but when they did, we were like, oh, you're the worst parents in the world. I can't believe you're making me do this. I hate this, you know? It's just like, it's an interesting thing because I think now as an adult, it's very challenging for me to want to do anything because I'm like, I never had to do this growing up. Like, I embarrassingly so can probably count on two hands the times I've made a bed. And it's usually been at my grandma's house.
I had to.
No, we didn't.
Called back to my house. Like, you can't go to your friend's house until you come back and make your bed.
So we never did. And then I found an article that supported it that said that if you get sunlight into your room and you take the covers off your bed, it prevents bed bugs. Like, as if my house was going to get bed bugs. But I was like, nope, I can't make my bed because then the bed bugs will come. And my mom was like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I read it in an article.
I think I also read that if you don't make your bed, you're more creative or something.
Right. You can find an article to support you anyway. Like we were talking about earlier, like, how do you decide on which sources to trust, right? Because somebody could just say anything in passing and you're like, well, I'm going to believe that, you know?
Right. You can literally look up anything, I feel like, and it's a sign of pregnancy.
Oh my god! I swear,
the other day I was like, oh, my teeth are more sensitive than normal. Am I pregnant? Let me see if that's a symptom. Literally, I found like teeth sensitivity can be a sign of pregnancy, but so can everything else.
Yeah.
This is so stupid. Why do I Google?
I know.
But yeah, I know. But now I feel like as parents, we're kind of full circle, like with the Montessori like schools and like, oh, we're going to teach them how to do these chores and how to help around the house. Like, but shouldn't that be a given? I don't even know. Like, people used to do it. Then I feel like somewhere we tapered off and now we're like trying to circle back. I don't know.
Oh, it's the same thing. Somebody was making a comment to me recently about how kids used to be potty trained a lot younger. And it was likely a money grab to keep kids in diapers longer for the companies to make more money. And I'm like, I never thought about it that way before.
Yeah, well, formula did the same thing. They made formula and made a big, like, oh, look, you can go back to work and women in the workforce, which is awesome, but also like not right after you have a baby. And so the formula companies did the same thing. They made a lot of money making women think that they need to go back to work sooner and don't need to breastfeed. And so, I'm not saying if you formula feed, breastfeed, whatever, like that baby is best, but it was kind of the same thing. It was a money grab.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's like the data supports so many different things because like I've read a ton of things that are like, you should breastfeed until the kids are 2. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, what? Nope, I'm not going to do that. Right. But it's like, I think about, again, like different countries, different studies, different things. Like we can go any which way you want. If you want support, you're going to find it out there.
Yeah.
Whatever theory you have. And I just like, it is interesting. Like, will we get back to how it is, or is it going to keep progressing this way because, you know, AI is going to step in and become parents? And right. Like all of that stuff. It's kind of like where are we going to go from here? But what do I do at this stage? Because like, I love Flagstaff, right? And there is certain stuff that is so great and so safe here, but there are definitely pockets and areas that are not. And how do you teach your kids to encounter that and to keep themselves safe if something were to happen? You know, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. I guess, I mean, you have to teach them. You have to talk about those things, even though you probably don't want to. But I haven't figured it out either. I did see, like, I was following somebody. There's one person I need to stop following on Instagram because she scares me every time. She's like PSA and finds the worst story of someone getting kidnapped or like hurt or like killed. And she's like, this is what you should do to make sure this doesn't happen to you. And I'm like, you're putting fear into me every day. Like, unfollow. But anyways, I did see like, oh gosh, what is it? More like a game before we go in the store. Like, if I call for you, what are you going to say? Because, you know, like kids like to hide. I remember climbing into the clothes racks. I don't feel like they make them like that anymore, but right in the middle and hide away. But so they like practice it, like make it a game. Like if I say whatever your name is, and they'll be like, I'm here. I don't know. And then also if they're picked up by somebody that they don't know, like what to start screaming, like, this isn't my mom, or like, this isn't my dad. But what if they're mad at you and you do pick them up? This isn't my mom.
Yeah.
I don't know. And these aren't fact checked. They're just from normal people. So
well, that's
who knows?
I think that's such an interesting thing, because it's like I was talking to a friend because both of my girls eat popcorn, and she's like, you know that's like super dangerous for kids under 5 years old, right? And I was like, what? She's like, yeah, there was a kid that died from eating popcorn. I was like, he choked on popcorn? She's like, no, he like got it in his lungs. And I was like, what? Like, how did he do that? He like inhaled it? She's like, I don't know the whole story. So I went to my pediatrician and I was like, listen, I give my kids popcorn. Like, are they going to die? Like, is this a problem? Do I need to cut it off right away? And she's like, okay. Like, she like kind of gave that smirk, like, oh my goodness, like the things people think of and the things that come up for people are, it's just incredible. She's like, I mean, that absolutely could have happened, but it's probably,
it does. I've heard several stories of kids.
And I've heard it, like, she's like, I've never personally heard it as a pediatrician ever happen to a kid. And I've been a pediatrician for a long time. And I'm like, okay, that makes me feel a lot better, right? Like, I don't know. Like, and that's the thing is like, even our daycare has asked us to start cutting up Aubrey's grapes, because we've never cut up grapes. We've never done that kind of stuff, because we did baby-led weaning, which baby-led weaning was very big on like teaching them how to chew and teaching them how to like to handle anything that comes their way. Like, of course you watch them, like, it's not like I would keep them unattended, but it's like, if you let every single story into your brain and you're going to be afraid of everything,
right?
And you're not going to let your kid do anything. And that's the line you wanted. You like, I'm having a hard time drawing of like, okay, so do I want to take the risk of like letting my kid go to the park by herself? I mean, obviously she's 2. I wouldn't do it now, but like when she's like, 7, 8, I don't know what the age is, but. And then what if something happens? Like, would I ever forgive myself? No. I mean, I wouldn't forgive myself anyway, or do I like want her to have that independence and be able to go do those things? I don't know. How do you draw that line?
I've seen those gadgets, like their phones or their watches, but they're got location trackers on them.
Oh yeah.
And so you can find them wherever they are. Yeah. I've seen those. I've also heard of people putting AirPod, what are those? The trackers in their shoes.
Yep.
But my brain, I'm so crunchy. I'll be like, well, what is the EMF that is coming out into their foot from the Wi-Fi? That's me. I am crunchy. Yeah. But I did hear a lot of times if someone kidnaps a child, they'll usually change their clothes, but usually the same as they keep their shoes, because I mean, what's the odds that they're going to have shoes that like fit that child, unless they know that they're premeditated to kidnap this person? But a lot of times they'll change their clothes and put their shoes back on.
I mean, honestly, I'm not against chipping my child like you chip a dog. Like, just put it under their skin. You're not getting that out. You won't even know it's there.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
But like, how crazy do we sound saying that, right? Like,
yeah, I'm on the opposite end. I'm going to live in the middle of the woods with no phones, just the chickens and my garden. No, I'm just kidding. I can't. I would love that. I can't be that.
That is my dream. That's my dream, is to get there. But I'll tell you this: Brandon and I had an incident when we were hiking that we almost got shot because the guy wasn't practicing shooting. He was practicing shooting, but not with good practices. Oh, okay. And it was awful. And so now anytime I hear a gunshot in the woods, I'm like, they're coming to get us. Like, or a stray bullet's going to get us. And I'm like, and I was telling somebody that, and they're like, okay, so like living in the woods, you're going to hear gunshots all the time because people are going to be shooting all over. Like, you will not want to be in the woods if you're that afraid of gunshots. And I'm like, right. That's a valid point. That's a very valid point.
They probably got a deer. We hear gunshots here in the mornings early because there's duck hunting in the rivers nearby. So it's just like, yeah. I don't know. It's weird. It's funny because I feel like I'm from the country and my dad was a police officer. So we did grow up around firearms and how to use them safely. And
yeah, that's awesome.
and hunting, and so I'm your redneck.
I like, I've shot guns, and I think it's very enjoyable. I really enjoyed it, but like, I shot guns with people who were very experienced and took it very seriously.
For sure.
You need to be doing things safely, and you need to check your surroundings before you just start shooting, and I was like, so I learned those things, but obviously, like, not everybody's in that boat. No. And that's the hard part,
And the scary part, for sure.
It's very scary, yeah.
Man.
Gosh, I just think of somebody from another country that doesn't have guns listening to this being like, what is going on out there?
Them Americans.
Yeah.
They're wild.
Yes. I have not been shot, for the record. I was close, but it was in the woods. It wasn't like just hanging out on the street.
Haven't been shot, haven't lost a limb, and I haven't been kidnapped, knock on wood.
Yeah.
So,
all of that
never happens.
Yeah.
But that is scary. I do always check my surroundings going into like Target, especially when I'm with Weston. I've been way more cautious, to the point where I was at Walmart and I was walking out, and this guy drove by, and then he backed up and he was waiting. And so I started slowly putting my groceries in, not trying to get away from him. It was daylight, but I walked my buggy back to the to its holder, to its home, and I took Weston out, and I took a long route, like away from my car and then back to my car, and he was still sitting there. I was like, this dude cannot be waiting for my parking spot, because there was literally a parking spot. So it was like close to Walmart, and then there was, I think it was 3 spots down. So there was 2 cars, and then, so my car, 2 cars, and then an empty spot. So 3 spaces down. And so I asked the couple they're older and they were putting their groceries. I'm like, this is going to sound really weird. I was like, but this guy's been sitting here, and like, can you just keep an eye on him or me, like, while I put my son back into the car? I'm like, I know this sounds crazy. Mm-hmm. And so the guy stood there, and he was like, what? I was just waiting for her spot. And I'm like, he's like, I wasn't trying to do anything. So then I felt embarrassed, but I was like, dude, there's literally a spot 2 spots down. He's like, but I want your spot. I'm like, are people really that lazy that you can't walk? Like, it was even 5 feet, like, well, I guess the spots are 5 feet. It was like 10, 20 feet away, and he couldn't park there. But I went out of my way and then asked strangers, which they could have been kidnappers, to watch me put my son in the car so that guy didn't come up behind me and like jump me.
Yep.
So yeah, that's how my brain works.
I've like, it's incredible. Like, I was thinking about this because I do have 2 girls, that I think it's going to be very difficult to be a male as you get older, because of how, like, females feel so uncomfortable this day and age, right? Like I'm always looking over my shoulder, like, especially, like, I like to walk my dog in the woods. Like, I don't know if Hank would protect me if something happened. I really hope he would, but who knows? He'd probably be sniffing something, and I'd be like, she'll be fine, But I think about that, and I'm like, yeah, she'll figure it out. It's fine. That I think about, like, you just, like, it stinks to always feel like you have to be looking over your shoulder, and you always have to be alert of your, and what's going on with your surroundings. And I just, like, you think about, like, good guys out there, and even then they can get accused of things that, wasn't the case. Like, literally, I was just walking down the street. Like, I wasn't trying to attack her or talk to her or anything like that. I just was trying to go down the street. It's going to be very interesting to see how this progresses as things go on,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll figure it out. I don't know either. Yeah.
So
yeah, I want to be not so cautious, but I am. That's just
I know.
me.
So let me ask you, with you guys getting out of the military and going into normal civilian living, do you think that it'll be different?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I want a security system that tells me if I forgot to unlock my doors. Did they even do that? I don't know. Or like didn't shut my garage. Because we forget to shut our garage. We forget to lock our doors. Don't come find me. I shouldn't tell all the strangers know. But we forget. And then, so yeah, I want the Ring camera. I want like security cameras. that's wild.
But I mean, like
an alarm system.
Do you think you'll let Weston go?
Oh, I see.
Play?
Well, I guess we'll have to see kind of like where we're at. Yeah. I think it depends on the location. I don't know. I don't think I'll this is going to be bad, but unless I really, because then you still don't really know somebody. But I would really have to like trust them to let Weston stay the night at someone else's house. I think I'll let those kids stay at my house, but I've too many friends and heard too many stories of like people going over to someone else's house and their parents are weird or pedophiles. I don't know. Like,
oh, jeez.
I am worst case scenario. So yeah, Weston until he's like older and being able to understand like what's right and what's not and be able to express that. Yeah, no, I think I'm going to be a helicopter over the top parent. I need to work on it. I don't know. He's going to be in therapy.
It's hard. I know. Well, that's what I was like. Like, can I get Hannah into jiu-jitsu now? Is she too young for like self-defense abilities, stuff like that, you know?
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah. I don't know why I think that way. I'm just like, again, like, and I know not everyone's like that, but you seriously never know.
Yep.
Like, never know. I mean, it could, like, my sister, one of her friends, were like, it was her family member, and you know, so it's just like you just don't ever know, and can't trust everybody.
One of the things that I was saying was strangers are rarely the issue. It's usually within
somebody you know.
Yeah, somebody you know. So teach them the right and wrong actions instead of teaching them to be afraid of all new people.
Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took that way extreme, but that like now you know how my brain works.
No,
I need to work on it because like I have no trust. Sometimes I feel like I was too trusting, and now I'm like, since I've had Weston, it's like I don't trust anybody. And it's not anybody. Like obviously, I trust my family and my close friends, but
no, I totally get that. I think oof, man, it's like a wormhole. We could get down this and never come out of it because it is very It's hard being a parent. Like I will say, before I was on antidepressants, like I was afraid of everything and every crazy scenario would pop into my head. And since I've been on them, it is like very rare that I go through those periods. But I had one a couple of days ago where it was like I was giving Aubrey a bath and I think Brandon or Hannah like yelled and I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's murdering them. They're going to come and murder me. The bathtub is on and the drain is plugged. Aubrey's going to drown. Like, this is like, I'm freaking out, you know, like,
oh no,
why did we go there? Right? Like, why did my brain go there? But that was like when Hannah was first born. And I, like I said, was going through postpartum depression. That was like my everyday. I was so afraid of everything and anything. And like, the craziest scenarios, like a crow coming and pecking my eyes out. Like, what are we doing here? Why does our brain do this? And then you want me to raise children with these fears. Like, oof.
Right.
It's hard.
Yeah, it is. Being a parent, it's hard.
It is. I just want to find
what's right and wrong. I
just want to find a podcast that's like therapy and like tells me like other people think the same way you do, but statistically the chances of a crow pecking your eyes out is like 1 in a zillion. So please like just know that, because that's what I need. Like I need stats. I want numbers. I want you to tell me the chances.
Yeah. I don't know about a crow, maybe a hawk. There's some hawks that are like down the road, and I was always worried it was going to swoop down and like get us or like pick up my little dog Chewy or like get Weston. But I had a legit reason, because someone posted on a spouse's page about the hawks and swooped down and got her husband, and his head was split open because the hawk attacked him. He was just running. He was just on a run and got attacked by a hawk. And it was down this way by the school. And so every time I walk, I'm like, there's the hawk. I'll be watching it as I'm walking. I'm like, I'm going to have to like attack the, like, get this hawk if he comes after Weston. Stick. So I feel like that's a legit fear.
Oh man. I know we're not alone in these thoughts. Like, I know I've talked to other people who have been like, oh yeah, you want to hear mine? Like, it's this scenario, you know. It's crazy. Yeah.
I tell Ryan about them sometimes, or especially after the fact, after like my postpartum, like those intrusive thoughts, and he was just like, you thought that? It's weird. Like, it's not weird, it's normal, but
yeah,
they don't get it because, you know, men get to have their hormones like level throughout their whole entire life. How nice would that be? Literally every month our hormones change and we're just like up and down, and it's the worst.
It is.
It's the worst.
It really is.
It never stops. Yeah.
No.
And then if you're pregnant, you got pregnancy hormones. And then after pregnancy, you have postpartum hormones. And then after you stop breastfeeding, it's like more shifts. So it's just.
And then you have kids that you're worried about until they're, you know, forever old. Yeah. Even when they're 60.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So.
Yeah.
Wild.
Well,
wild being a parent.
We didn't come up with any solutions on how to make this problem better, but I mean, my solution still is like, maybe I just need to move to a country where, but you know what, even if I move to another country, I'm going to be like, oh, they're like, I can't trust, because I've gone through 38 years of not trusting. How do you just let that down that easily? You know?
What is that country? Is it Norway or Sweden? I can't remember, where they have the babies outside while you're in the shop. Or in the pub, and they're just getting there. And it can be really cold there, and they're all bundled. I saw a video, and it was like 10 baby strollers. I'm like, who leaves their baby outside alone while you go shop? Or get a beer? I don't know.
Can you imagine that?
No.
No. As crazy as
you would go to jail here for neglect.
Right? Like, wow. Wow. I think that's amazing. I mean, it's like, like I said, like, having lived here as long as I have, you couldn't convince me to do it, even if it was normal. I couldn't do it.
No, I won't leave Weston in the car. Like, what? I mean, you shouldn't leave your kids in the car, but I mean, my parents used to do it all the time. But I was like, not as a baby, but as like a young child. They're like, do you want to sit here? Sure. And I thought it was cool. Like, get up in the driver's seat and pretend like I'm driving, or like.
We used to talk about that. Like, when Hannah was a baby, she was such a great sleeper. Like, she would sleep 14 hours and never wake up. But like, we could go to the store right now and leave her in the crib, and she would, like, nobody would know, and she wouldn't know. Yeah. And then like one day I was telling Brandon, because we have 2 drop-offs for daycares because they're not the same daycare. I'm like, I like made a comment about, oh man, I really want to leave Hannah in the car. He's like, don't do that, you'll go to jail. And I was like, okay, I won't do it. And then one day I was like, I'm doing it, I won't tell him. And then like 2 months later, I was like, I have to tell you something. And he was like, what? I was like, I've been leaving Hannah in the car while I drop Aubrey off. He's like, oh yeah, I've been doing that for months. And I'm like, you're the one who shamed me. I didn't do it for so long because you told me I was going to go to jail. He's like, oh yeah, it's just a lot easier to just do that way. And like, even today, she was like, can you leave me in the car so I can talk to my mom? She calls her Nama. Yeah. Can I talk to Nama on the phone while you go drop Aubrey off? And I was like, okay. I was like, you know, but we're just lucky. You know, we live in an area that works. You know, don't do that in certain places.
No. I did hear, so this couple, they're really big Instagram influencers, and they're young, and they got so much shame because they posted, which I don't know why they posted it. I wouldn't have done it, but so they had like the Nana or whatever you can get actually, I think they FaceTimed. So they FaceTimed one phone, took their other phone on a cruise. Their baby was asleep, so they could go to the late dinner and have dinner. Mm-hmm. And they were watching their baby in their hotel, cruise room.
They got shamed.
While they went and got dinner. Because they posted it and they got a lot of backlash for it. And I don't know how I feel about,
I would do that. Yeah. Especially, like, it's not like you can, like, the kid can escape.
Right. It was like a baby.
And you're on a cruise ship. It's not like they can, like, take your baby and, like, go to another place. You're confined to this ship, you know? I don't know. We've left the house before with Aubrey sleeping, like to go to the end of the block to go get the mail, or like to go to the end of the block to let Hannah take a walk. And I'm like, we can watch her. And I know people would be weirded out by that. Like, even like, I can't remember who it was, but we went over next door to Ryan and Michelle's house, like literally next door, but not in the same house. And I think it was my mom. And she's like, wait a second, you left the house? Like, and I was like, I mean, I'm next door. Like, I have my camera. I can see her. I can hear her. If something happens, I can be over there really quick. She's like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm like, well, and I don't tell you, I go for walks, like with her at the house, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not bad if you can be like back really quick. But I will tell you, I've had nightmares of me like being an hour away and like having the camera, and then he wakes up and I'm like far away. Like, those are just dreams. And I would have him. And I'd wake up and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. I went to the commissary and got groceries while he was sleeping. But I really didn't do that, y'all. But I did. I have had so many dreams, about it.
Yeah.
Man.
I know. Well, somebody that's a therapist, come on and be our therapist. Make us feel better.
We should just do that. That would, if we had a therapist on here and had a podcast, that would be great. Just like putting out all of our dirty laundry and just all of our issues. I think people would really like that.
I think they would too. I love
that's an idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, if you're a therapist and you want to jump on and talk about all our problems, I'd be willing.
Me too. Me too. We could be like couples therapy. Pretend like we're... I love it. All right. Well, hey. We'll talk to y'all soon.
Right. I don't know how much we stayed on topic, but it was good. Did we ever?
We're just, I mean, at this point, we're just talking. We just, you know, whoever's still out there, if there's anybody out there still listening, shoot us a message and let us know you listen.
Yeah.
All right. Talk to y'all soon.
Bye. And that wraps up another episode of Mom Jeans, trying to fit into motherhood. Thank you again so much for listening to us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider giving us 5 stars so other mothers out there like you can find us and listen. If you would like, you could follow us on any of our socials at Mom Jeans the podcast. If you have questions, would like to send us your birth story, or give us suggestions or things that you would like to hear, please email us at hello@momjeansthepodcast.com. See you next week.